This woman rose from humble beginnings to become co-ruler of an empire. She was beautiful, brilliant, capable, tolerant, and a feminist ahead of her time. Depending on who you ask, she's a saint in the Greek Orthodox Church. But contemporary historians called her a tyrant, a harlot, because of course, and an emasculator of men. That last one should give you a clue as to why she's vilified, especially when you keep in mind that most of history has been written by men. Unfortunately, most of what we know about her was also written by a man in a book called Secret History, in which he did nothing to disguise his derision of women, especially for her. No, not going to say his name. You got Google, look it up if you want it. Salty historian, remember? Now that that's covered, let's get into it, shall we? Theodora was born around 497 CE in what is now Istanbul, Turkey. Her dad was a bear keeper. See, kids, even ancient dudes chose the bear. Anyway, when Theodora was only about 5 years old, he unfortunately passed away, leaving his family desperately poor, since women had very few opportunities to support themselves. Her mom quickly remarried, a dude who assumed he would get her deceased husband's job. Alas, one should never assume. Weren't exactly employment agencies. So mom encouraged her 3 daughters to go into one of the very few fields that were open to them. They became actors. Glamorous, right? Yeah, no. Society didn't consider that any different from selling their bodies. Because, of course, Theodora took the stage for the first time when she had reached what masculine society said was maturity. She was 12 years old. I mean, reasonable for men to want that, right? Quick side quest. Because I know what people are going to say. Don't come at me with that tired old theory. They had to do it because of average life expectancy. If you want to know why I think that's bullshit, go ahead and comment and I'll make another video. Okay, got that out of my system for now. Back to Theodora, because she's why we're really here. I want to reiterate, the dude who claimed to be her biographer had a real hard-on for making her look bad. But I've tried to sift through the bullshit to find some semblance of the truth. So, according to him, when she and her sisters initially left and got jobs, she was too young to take actual clients yet. So she hung out with the servant boys of the men who visited the brothel and let them do it. And when she was finally old enough, remember I said 12, she officially entered the brothel. But I thought it was the stage. So was it actor or harlot? That actually depends on who you ask. Regardless, she enjoyed getting a laugh. She was shameless and would do whatever it took to make people smile. But according to that dumbass biographer, that included climbing on tables and lifting her skirts for the entire room to see. Then she'd open her legs for 30 to 50 men a night and never be satisfied. Let's math for a second. 50 guys, 8-hour shift, to use modern bankers' hours. It's about 6 guys an hour, 10 minutes per. Clearly some of them would have only needed like 2. But hey, I digress. No bathroom or shower breaks. Yeah, okay. That said, that means the dipshit biographer had set it up to be able to say she slept her way to the top. Because one night, this dude called Justinian came a-calling at the brothel. She was about 16. He saw her and he was smitten. It was that classic story that so many women dream of. A crowded room of horny men. Justinian's and her eyes met. She lowered her skirts and kicked the guy away that was with her. And from that moment on, she never lifted them again for anyone else. Or some shit. Regardless, he was a senator and on his way to becoming emperor of the Byzantine Empire. His station being so far above hers meant they could not get married. He could only fuck her. But see, Justinian called bullshit. He wanted her with more than just his little head. His heart had gotten into it. He convinced the sitting emperor, his uncle, to change the law for him. See, kids, not what you know, who you know. And post-haste, Theodora and Justinian tied the knot, much to the dismay of traditionalists, who developed a great distaste for the actor/harlot, largely because it opened the door for other unsavory women to marry above their station. Oh, the horror! Fuck's sake. Well, not long after, Justinian was emperor, meaning that Theodora was empress. And yeah, she ended up with more haters. You want to know why? You want to know why? You want to know why? Okay, fine. I'll tell you. Cripe, simmer down. Anyway, you might think it was her reputation. But it wasn't only that. There was also the resting bitch face. That she liked taking long baths and eating a variety of food. Dipshit biographer also said she was vicious and persistently cruel. She made her husband look weak because she was the one actually pulling the strings. She made sure that the public knew that she and Justinian never agreed, though later the dipshit said that wasn't it. It was both of them trying to make sure the public knew they weren't actually a team, so they could get away with more bullshit. And holy moly, could she hold a grudge, even after the person was 6 feet under. I can't leave this one out. She literally made a dude her bitch. He'd been doing some nefarious things to women, so Theodora had the guy picked up by one of her servants, and she literally spanked him. While there were also the castrations and executions. Oh, and this tidbit. She and her husband participated in different faiths. He believed that JC was both human and divine. She only believed in the divine. Dear old Hubs liked unaliving her people. She liked hiding and protecting them. Now, something important during their time. Just like now, there was loyalty for your favorite sports team. The top teams in the field of chariot racing, the blues and the greens. I know, original. The Empress's jersey was blue. Allegedly, her husband's was green. She let the guys on her team get away with anything they wanted, even if it was illegal, and eagerly punished the other side. So she and he kind of butted heads publicly to show that they didn't have any unity there either. That kept the blues and the greens from teaming up, because if they did, they'd have enough power to overthrow leadership and eat his ass for breakfast. No, not like that. I'm not talking about your kinks. Anyway. Now, why would they want to keep people divided? Well, the common folk. If they never teamed up, they probably would never know what leadership was up to, and couldn't do anything about it. Divide and conquer, keeping revolts down since ancient times. But let's also remember that leadership like this tends to be greedy and appoint corrupt people to key positions. No, I'm not talking about today. His people liked collecting heavy taxes. I know, so hard to believe. People were finally fed the fuck up. And here's one of the things that Theodora is often credited with. She convinced dear hubby not to run away like a child when danger was looming on the horizon. In January of 532, there was a huge competition at the Hippodrome. Violence among fans was pretty common, and during the events, fans would call out, "Nika!" That meant conquer, win, or victory. Except that year, some shit had gone down, and a lot of blues and greens were sent to the gallows. One leader from either side survived. So during the chariot race at the Hippodrome that day, fans from both sides were begging Justinian to show mercy on those two men. He refused to make a decision, and the crowd went wild in a bad way. They wanted Justinian's head. They lit fires. Nearly half the city of Constantinople was burned to the ground by the people who had been so heavily taxed. In a nutshell, they tried to get him out of office, put their guy in. Justinian and his dudes were getting ready to book it out of town. And Theodora was like, "Oh no, the hell you won't." She basically said, "Look, you can either be the emperor you're supposed to be and pass away with honor, or you can be a fugitive and remembered as a weak piece of shit." It worked. Justinian stayed. He put down the revolt, now called the Nika riot. It's estimated between 30 and 50,000 people lost their lives. And instead of going down in history as a coward, Justinian gained more power. Thanks, Theodora! Despite everything negative that's said about her, most sources say Justinian treated her as his equal. She had major impact on political decisions. A lot of folks believed she ran the empire, not him. I mean, her name is found on almost all the legislation of the time. She communicated with foreign leaders, a job usually reserved for men. But here's what she should be known for: her work for women's rights. Through her, new laws were passed. She built safe houses for women, outlawed prostitution, and increased the penalty for... She revised divorce laws, so women had more equal footing and retained their rights as mothers. There's a fuck ton more to her story, like the Hagia Sophia, which I probably said wrong, aqueducts, and more. But all her shit she did for women made her a problem. So her biographer made sure to focus on and probably exaggerate her dastardly deeds and wanton lust. He basically relegated her work for women's rights to nothing more than a footnote. Okay, but I said she was a saint. That's because of her piety, charitable works, and more. Maybe they ignored how awful she was. I don't know. Her work as a prostitute? Unconfirmed. Her biographer? A misogynist. So was she a sinner or a saint? Villain or savior? Clearly, like anyone, she was probably somewhere in between, depending on who you ask.